Welcome to the most prosperous theory that you have ever heard or will hear, where it all starts from a simple question of what is the meaning behind the universe and what is it for. Then came the idea of what if it was a being or part of a being, but that would have been absurd if there was a being with that kind of power. That would have been God Himself. We have dismissed the idea to be being absurd. But But when I did compare the most fundamental part of just two solar systems, the atoms and solar systems, there was a kind of similarity between them. And then could come the possible comparison of galaxies for being the cells for this being. I would hear some of you think that I don't have a solar system for atoms and galaxies for cells. Well, if you think there will be a 10-10 comparison between this being and you, then you will be the most arrogant person to have ever existed. And if you continue to do so, then just shut the fuck up and just listen, bitch. Then what would the state of blood set for this being? Well, as for blood, that will be space-time. Space-time? If you think about it, there wouldn't be a problem, right? But if we do the same thing with space-time on water, what happens? When you are thirsty, you want to drink water, right? You wouldn't want to drink hydroxygen. That would be lame as fuck. Yeah. That basically smells like you didn't even know that they were interconnected before. And you wouldn't have if not for Einstein, his teacher, and even he forced to dismiss it. So that's why I would like to respectfully rename it as the True Ichor, the foundation of it all, the lifeblood of the universe. So you are basically reinventing the wheel. Well, that will be yes and no. I'm not finding anything new. I'm just giving you a new perspective about it. That's all. So that's why yes and no. But if you think about space and time being combined to form True Ichor, that will lead us to the separation of the dimensions. Why do we separate them if they are combined to create True Ichor? So that's why I would like to argue about the first true dimension being the combination of both, and what's underneath is the what I call is the micro dimensions. There being 6 of them. Yeah, you have heard it right. 6. Length, height, height, present or now, past and future. But there is no past and future. Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. But I would also say that there has to be a formula behind time itself. And that's why the last 3 of the micro dimensions is just the road that will lead to it. So I'm losing fucking dimensions. No, you do not. I would even argue that you would gain a micro dimension. How so? Well, let me explain. When it comes to time or time section of the micro dimension that I have just mentioned, the fourth micro dimension, the now or present, because we do have awareness and can influence our present, that basically makes us automatically a fourth micro dimensional being. So when they ask about what's the difference between you and rock, you can brag about you being a higher micro dimensional being. Thank you, kind sir. I will brag about it to my girlfriend, even if it's not rock hard. Paper can make a difference because it's a superior. Good for. If you were to ask me a possible route to the first two dimension, you will first see me a perfect photographic memory. That will be basically a perfect recollection of your past. That's like a treasure map for your past, yeah, I would say. Good eyes and some kind of trigger to the brain that will help you see the casualty of time that, and that basically means seeing future past. Think about training a new muscle. You will have to see seconds, minutes, hours, and so. Then you have to create a alignment between all your past possibilities and future possibilities that will lead to the creation of what I call a timeline. But with it comes the danger of that because when your future self do experiments that could be perceived from your brain that you too have died and that could lead to that of all of you. That's just basically consequences of having what I am. So deal with it, bitch. So even if you have achieved all of the things that I have said, you wouldn't be a true cross-dimensional being. Yeah, you will be at the limit, but that makes all of the difference. To achieve that, first of all, you will have to choose the most optimal way still of goal of yourself. That will basically be the queen of the high mind or the king, whichever you prefer. And that will also possibly prevent the death that I have mentioned before. So what's it for this way? So if you ask me, that will be the one that will contain all. You will have to also combine not just your mind but physically into one being, and that will lead to achieving the first two dimension, and you will become a first two dimensional being. And yes, you could also possibly achieve not in just one try, combining all of them in one try, but I would argue that with the combination of all of them at the same time, that will be the more correct choice. If you were to ask me why, it just a feel. So if you ask me one of the requirements to achieve this fusion, I will say that it being a simple and not so much at the same time, that will be the acceptance of yourself in all timelines. Well, that's easy. Well, shut the fuck up. If you think that's easy, then you are lying to yourself. So you won't be achieving body. Good luck with micro dimensions. Well, let's just say that you have achieved what you will gain. You theoretically manipulate time to some extent, so you won't be confined to your now. And because of the fusion, you will have all of the experience of your all other selves. You will gain all of their strength and wealth. So you will have a strength that will put most of the superheroes to shame, and wealth that possibly put our veil to shame. So you don't have to worry about that because you will possibly manipulate gravity to some extent. So you could basically possibly fly. But you won't be invincible or immortal. You will at the end do have a lifespan. But that will be a lot more than a normal model. Did you imagine enough? If you think being a first true dimensional being that's cool, I would first like to get you down your high horses in front of this being. Before we continue, I'd like to make myself clear. I do believe the intent behind words and emotions behind it. So before you condemn me, hear me out. There will be those that will condemn me even after hearing us. I can do anything for you. So continue to be close-minded until, yeah, good for you. Well, if the universe or all of the universes is a part of a being or the being themselves, what could we call this being is what I call beyond imperfect being. First of all, it's not a devolution of imperfect. I could hear that some of you says, why not perfect? God is perfect. Yeah, and I will say that being insulting. So firstly, stop and listen. First of all, think about a river that symbolizes the being that comes first, the imperfect being, the beings like us or other things that are imperfect. But because of these imperfections that we do have, because of that we do have a room to grow, and that's the difference between us and the perfect being. And that river branches into two. The one you think is the more correct one, the perfect being, and the other one is the beyond imperfect being. Let's talk about a perfect being first, and let me explain why I call it insulting. What it means to be perfect is to have reached the perfection, your possible perfection. And that means that you have no future potential, that you have reached your limit, and that you have basically reached the end of your road. And that's why I say that it's insulting. And I would even argue that an imperfect being superior to a perfect being, because of that little potential that we have, we won't be. Let's just say that perfect being true first dimensional being that I have explained before. I will say that an imperfect being like us will be superior, because if that imperfect being that have reached its potential in the first true dimension wouldn't have the potential to go beyond that, basically. So that means even if we don't have the power to go against them, that potential that we do have basically makes us superior. So I'm not trying to say it in the meaning of superior in the power or another thing. Basically, you wouldn't be able to compare in facts of that. But because of that potential, there will be those that could be possibly go beyond that, and that's potential of going beyond that level is what makes the difference of superiority of imperfect being to the to a perfect being. So let me explain now what is why I do call beyond imperfect being. And for those that thought about why not then a beyond perfect being, well, I would say that too being a perfect being, but on another level, and that will basically mean same shit in a different color. Yeah. As for beyond, as for the beyond imperfect being, first of all, they will have all the energy of the stars in this universe and the other universe. Basically, infinite amount of energy. And if you think that's it, what makes it being a beyond imperfect being, then I will say that your vision is limited. If you think that having an infinite amount of energy is perfect, then I will be agreeing with you that being perfectly limited. Because this being goes beyond that, because they do contain the space and time, the true Ichor inside of them, they will be able to view all of the imaginable and unimaginable possibilities. They will be able to manipulate it to that outcome, so that basically means they will be able to self-evolve. And even if they have reached that possible most efficient outcome, when they do reach that level, with that new power, if they could view a more efficient outcome, they could just big bang and start anew. So this being wouldn't just have a limitless energy, they too would have a limitless potential. So and that what makes it a beyond imperfect being, the limitless energy, the limitless potential, and the ability to control your own evolution. For those with more quicker minds that could sense the implications, I could smell your despair. Well, do feel despair. That that will be what will drive you to go beyond imperfect. As for those who could not understand the implications, what will mean to have that kind of supreme manipulation of time, space and time that True Ichor will mean is that imagine these two combination of those two powers, the echolocation of bats and X-ray vision, the combination of both. Imagine the combination of these two powers to the possible limit of your imagination, and and even that power will go beyond anything you can imagine for this being. So they will be able to self-view to the microscopic levels, and then comes the supreme control over space and time with the combination of these powers. That's where comes the ability to self-evolve, basically, to control your evolution. You'll be able to view all of your past and future in this timeline and the others in a blink of an eye, and they will know everything about you and even the things that you don't know about yourself. So when we talk about the saying that God knows it all, that won't be incorrect for this being, or God is everywhere with us, in you and me, in earth or the sky, everywhere. And that too will be incorrect, and the other way around will be also not be incorrect. And because they do have a supreme manipulation of time and space, the True Ichor, they will know the possible outcomes of the combination of all of the known or unknown elements of the nature, even without trying it, and possibly even without knowing uh, if that was even possible. So it can be said when we try to learn the physics, the the laws behind it and the elements, it could be said that we are basically trying to understand the power of creation, and that will make the God the ultimate scientist from our perspective. And if we were to review this in our lives, there will be things that have come from the physics and gone to the other subject, the biology, the astronomy, the chemistry, or math for the physics, and there is a interconnection behind them. And if we were to view this as a law, I would name it as the law of origin, where one leads to all and all leads to one, and that goes for infinite amount of times without an end. For those that are asking for paradoxes, first let's just compare the time for water. When you think about water, there is its states of being that it does not behave like water, like ice. So I do think that the paradoxes of the time could possibly be the what is ice state of water is for the time, where its behavior is different because of outside influences. As for black holes or gravity. Well, those two could possibly be the protection system or immune system of the universe. Also, if you would ask me, that will be like if there were no gravity and the stars or galaxies will be possibly colliding with each other with no uh, order behind them. So that will be basically like all of your cells possibly fighting each other. That wouldn't be a pleasant experience. So gravity just basically gives it the space harmony and order. And when we talk about the black hole, they will just possibly be recycling energy, and that's it. The most fearsome of the immune system imaginable for existence. So I would say the thing that symbolizes beyond imperfect, I do believe that being the shape of a sphere. As for the reason why, when I say to you to choose in between the two things that you will have to walk on top of for the rest of your life, that being a giant ball and a perfect flat ground, you will much prefer the flat ground instead of a giant ball because it will be inconvenient to walk on top of it without falling. But then you do have to realize that you live in a giant spherical celestial object that being Earth. And because space do contain all the possibilities that being equal to limitless potential. And maybe that's the reason behind most of the celestial objects that we do know of are being spherical. And that could also possibly mean that the possibility of galaxies too being spherical because we could only see the part that does emit light. As for the existence of heaven and hell, why not? And for reincarnation and karma, because they do have the power of creation, they could literally transform you to anything you could imagine and not. And as for the things that you have experienced and will experience, it could be attributes and not at the same time. It is like the thing with the cat in the box. It is alive and not at the same time. So it does not matter if it is or not. What matters is whichever you would like to believe. And this all leads us to the possible interconnection behind the religion and the science and possibly the history, where first two-dimensional beings or ascending beings have been misunderstood for their powers as being godly without understanding anything better. And unfortunately, with this understanding comes the possibility that we are wasting most of our potential that has been granted to us from the True Ichor. And not the other way around, where you believe that because you experience that you die. No, you die because your cells are dying. You cannot live time. Space has granted to us literally the space to grow, and because we do experience time, we have our awareness and time to grow. And because of this reason, why wouldn't it possible to grant us the soul itself? I'm not trying to say that you should take everything that I have said as the ultimate truth. No, you should take it with a pinch of salt, like everything you should. But you do realize where the perfection leads to. You don't have to look into the future, past will do. Egyptians did have the perfect proportions in their sculpture and perfect pyramids where they did reach the ceiling that only has the possible road to Tamas, where they did go, as can be seen in the Fifth Dynasty. Would you rather continue to chase perfection or stay imperfect and go beyond? It is up to you to decide. So, welcome to water, little fish, the true echo.